So we're talking about an extra $1 million infusion into the DA's budget, or back into the DA's budget, I should say. I know that last time we talked, you had mentioned the car theft task force being a big item for you that was important to you. Why did you not choose to fund that as well?
So we're just at the beginning of the process, and so today I wanted to put on the table a first set of amendments. I'm working with other commissioners and plan on working with the chair on the auto theft task force and also the organized retail theft task force. So more to come. This is the first installment with some things that I felt were really important to get on the table, get introduced in a public setting and with my fellow commissioners. And so they're related to being able to staff up to be able to be prepared for the body-worn cameras that now the local law enforcement is using. In addition, there is also a domestic violence deputy DA, and then a special deputy DA for a treatment court, which we know is really important to help people access treatment after they've had a court appearance.
Are you prioritizing in order of importance to you?
No, I put on the table the ones that I was ready to put on the table. As I said, I'm still working with other commissioners. Both Commissioner Jones-Dixon has indicated he's interested in working on those as well. But I've also had a conversation with the chair, so it's just a matter of basically when we have our meeting scheduled of when things get put on the table. But I was ready to put today's items on the table. I know those are absolutely essential for the DA to be able to effectively run his office and be able to effectively and efficiently move justice through Multnomah County.
So it's not a matter of priority, it's a matter of readiness. Can you explain to me what goes into that readiness?
So there's sort of two pieces. We had a presentation in terms of what the district attorney was prioritizing in his office and how those positions would be used or how the funds would be used. And then the second piece for all commissioners is also having a way to pay for them. And for me, it's always stronger to move with another commissioner. So it is a matter of sitting down and walking through, how we might pay for it, which ones to prioritize. The district attorney had about $5 million worth of positions that they were interested in strategically adding to their budget in order to sort of effectively and efficiently administer the work that they need to do to keep our community safe. So it's really a matter of having conversations with other commissioners and the chair in terms of how do we structure something that we both are either buying back or adding to the office that we're also finding a way to pay for.
So the three things that you are planning on adding back in, sounds like those might be more palatable to some of the other commissioners?
I think, well, they're ones that I have heard other commissioners say that they're supportive of. And then in addition, I know that, for example, both Commissioner Jones-Dixon and we cover East Portland, East County, and the organized retail theft and auto theft are big issues. And so I want to specifically work with him on those. And I think we're going to do that in the next couple of days.
Some strategy involved.
Yeah, also, I want to be respectful. Everybody has a different sense of when they want to put the amendments on the table. His preference, given it's his first year, is to listen to all the presentations. I'm in my second budget cycle, and so I was ready to put those on the table and felt that they were ready to go. But it's by no means the last ones. And again, I've also had a conversation with the chair about parts of the DA's budget, and I'm looking forward to finding other places where we can add to that public safety budget.
So $1 million, a little over $1 million actually. Where are you getting that money from?
So we have identified that there's hundreds of vacant positions that are in the budget, and that we're going to be paying for it with 6 of the vacant positions. So we'd be taking current vacant positions that are funded in the budget, would be taking it from there.
Where are those vacant positions?
They're all across the county. So they would, and I want to talk to the chief operating officer about sort of where the prioritization, but we do have hundreds of vacant positions, and as someone who represents a district that is heavily impacted by gun violence, by crime, that I'm thinking like a vacant position is not doing anything to help improve public safety. in the county, and that utilizing some of those vacant positions in order to pay for a critical public safety function, to me, is a totally appropriate trade-off.
Is it administrative that these vacant positions are in, or are these across different departments? Could there be some in the sheriff's office, for example?
So I wouldn't be taking vacant positions from the sheriff's office because the positions are vacant, and we've prioritized filling them. Because right now, when those positions aren't filled, they essentially have to pay people overtime. So I would say they wouldn't be from the sheriff's office, those vacant positions, because we know that we need to staff our jails 24/7.
Could you send me a list of where they are?
Yeah, there's a list that all the commissioners have that was provided by the budget office.
So all these vacant positions amount to a little over $1 million?
No, I'm just taking 6 out of hundreds.
Oh, I see, okay. Can you send me a list of where those 6 are?
Well, that I'll also be having a conversation. I deliberately did not identify the 6 ones because I'm also flexible. I want to understand what other people's priorities are, both the commission, but also within departments.
So when will you be publishing where those 6 are?
Well, that'll probably be when we get to our budget amendments.
Okay, which
is at kind of the end of the process. So we're going to hear from all the departments. I mean, there's a potential that I could come back in the next week and identify them, or we could wait to just the amendment process.
Is that fair to the departments who are going to have those potential vacant positions cut? Are they going to be given a heads up?
Well, generally my practice, so every commissioner does something differently. My practice would be if we identified a position that is either vacant or a new position, that I would have a conversation with the department director.
So that's why you haven't identified the 6 places yet? Because if the department director comes back and says, hey, no, we really need this, you could potentially pivot?
I'd want to hear what their rationale for why it's vacant and why they haven't filled it, and how it fits within the county's priorities. Because from my perspective, there's no position that is like a useless position in the county, but I do think we are in a period where we're needing to prioritize. So I'd want to hear their rationale or why it hadn't been filled. So if a position for a long period of time hasn't been filled, the question is that service needed? Is there a reason why it hasn't been filled? But those are the type of conversations.
Are you looking at a specific period of time of when it would have to not have been filled to
No.
make that decision, or it could have been just a month? Or
No, the primary driver will be sort of prioritizing it within the county budget and what services are provided.
But are you also looking at the amount of time this position has gone vacant?
I mean, that would be a factor, but not the only factor. Also, we have not a lot, but we have some new positions, and I think those are also, from my perspective, those should be scrutinized. Anytime we're saying we're not going to do something, for example, again, having a vacant position and not having a domestic violence deputy district attorney, I think for me, it's very clear where I'd want to prioritize. Same thing with across the region. Law enforcement agencies are now starting to use body-worn cameras, and when that video is used in a court case, currently, because it's new, they don't have anybody to review hundreds of hours of video footage. That's not only provided for the prosecution, but also for the defense. And so from my perspective, those are positions that very clearly need to be funded because it's brand new work and it absolutely has to be done.
Mm-hmm. And then with these vacant positions, is there one specific department or a couple of departments that you are looking at, for example?
No, I mean, some departments are larger than others and some have more vacant positions. Again,
Homeless Services Department?
I don't know that they have that many vacant positions. The health department has a fair number, but they're kind of distributed across, and also the new positions are distributed across. And again, it's a prioritization exercise, but I think most people would say a position with nobody in it, providing no service, is not a good use of county resources, and especially when we have an urgent public safety need on the other hand.
So last question. When you say, okay, we're going to give you this money back and you have to use it for these 3 items, how much discretion does the district attorney's office then have to use that money for what he sees fit?
So the district attorney, just like all the other elected officials, has some degree of discretion and flexibility. Just like all the commissioners, the auditor, the sheriff has some flexibility in the resources they get. So the sheriff and the DA don't tell me how to staff my office. So they have some flexibility. Also, the DA is very clearly provided information to the commission about some very specific positions and provided like outcomes that would be delivered if the positions were filled. So I think we need to rely on his expertise and for him to have the flexibility if conditions change. And that was the same flexibility that his predecessor had. So it's nothing different than what the previous DA had. And I think we're gonna rely on his judgment and expertise, but he has identified these as positions that are important to his office and then important to doing the work and his partnership with other public safety entities in the region.
I guess say this gets passed, but the other amendment that you're talking about coming later doesn't get passed. Does he get to say, no, actually, I don't want to fund this position at DV. I want to fund this position at the Retail Task Force instead. He gets to do that if he wants.
I think it's premature to ask that because, like I say, I know it's the auto task force and the organized retail theft task forces are really important to actually reducing the amount of, and we've already seen that reducing the amount of cars that are stolen, reducing the amount of theft in our retail outlets, and those have had those thefts have real impacts on individuals, but also whether or not whole neighborhoods in East Portland and East County have access to like low-cost prescription drugs or groceries, because if the level of retail theft is so high that it's unsustainable and stores and retailers leave, that leaves, in many cases, certain neighborhoods without access to goods and services that everybody else just takes for granted and has at a reasonable, affordable price.